So welcome everyone to the 10th meeting of the ISOC Foundation board. It's already 10 meetings behind us, so that's really great. It seems it was yesterday when we had the very first meeting. So today we have a packed agenda with a few presentations, and we will be moving into executive direction and executive session and coming out again. But I will explain that later. First of all, given the agenda, any declarations of conflict? Okay, seeing none, we got regrets from Maimuna and Heather, and everyone else is here. So moving on to the first topic on the agenda, which is actually the second one after the welcome, which is the Executive Director report.
Warm greetings to everyone here today listening to this recording for the Internet Society Foundation Board of Trustees meeting that's taking place in March of 2021. This pre-recording is being done for discussion next week at the later part of March. And it's just to help provide some information on what the Internet Society Foundation has been doing since the last board meeting and what we plan to do moving forward. My name is Sarah Armstrong, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here to share with you what we've been working on. But I also want to share with you where we're going. And I want to share with you the fact that we are so proud of our grantees and the funding that we've given. It's just been a fantastic first operational year, which is what we call 2020. And now in our second operational year, we have a lot to report. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share a PowerPoint presentation with you. And I will share, and then I will put it into full slide mode. So here we are. So as I mentioned, this is for the March 2021 Board of Trustees discussion. It's being pre-recorded today, March 8th. And it's going to be discussed next week. So we have a lot to talk about today. Let me share with you the agenda. First of all, we're going to go back just a little bit and look at what it was that we did in 2020 and what we discussed at that Board of Trustees meeting in November. Main thing we discussed was our action plan and our budget. We also talked about our vision and our mission, but we also talked about our objectives. What is it that the Internet Society Foundation wants to achieve in 2021? And how will we measure success? We're still a startup. What are the things that we want to be able to say that we did in these early years? We'll also talk about, now that we're in 2021, what is it that we're going to do to achieve those objectives that we've established in our action plan? How will we do that? Through milestones and through activities. So I'll take you through those. We'll also do program highlights. So we have programs that are already very active, even though we're only into a very early part of the year. So I'm going to give you an update on research, on emergency response, on COVID-19, because we are going to relaunch that program. I will talk with you about skills. That is strengthening communities, improving lives and livelihoods. It's helping people understand the benefits of using the internet in the economy, how it can help you with education, and how it can help you with healthcare. And then we'll give an update on Beyond the Net. So we have a lot to talk about in terms of the programs that are active right now. We'll also talk about our commitment to monitoring and evaluation. We'll talk about financially what we've done, what we've committed, what we've given, and where we plan to go. We'll talk about communications, always so important, as well as our training updates. As you know, we're committed to helping our grantees. And we want to provide training that can help them do better applications and can help them do better programs. We'll talk about our new team members. We've had a headcount addition of 2, so I want you to meet those people. And then we'll talk about what comes next. So let's start by looking at our vision. The internet is for everyone. This is our vision. It's also the vision of the Internet Society. And this is something that is extremely important to us. When we look at this vision, it's not just about connecting people. It's about making sure that people understand the benefits of being connected. Extremely important. There's so much there. We know not everyone is connected. We also know those who are not always able to use the internet or understand the internet or benefit from the internet in the way that they should. Maybe sometimes things aren't culturally relevant. How can we change that? So this vision is huge for us, and something to which we are very, very committed. We also, of course, have our mission statement. This was something with the Board of Trustees that we discussed. And I want to put the emphasis on certain phrases here in this statement. We champion ideas and we enable communities to unlock the internet's potential to tackle the world's evolving challenges. We are so committed to this, everyone. It's so important to us to do what we can to make a difference in the lives of as many people as possible. That's where we come from. That's my background, that's my team's passion, and that's what we do together. And we're happy with the way that it started out. Again, this is our second operational year. There's a list here of bullets about the way in which we do this and deliver on this mission. I won't read all the words, you can see them yourselves, but you can see that the importance of investing in people and organizations who are really helping different populations. Partnering is important to us. Pushing the limit of ideas is important to us. Creating a community among our grantees so they can help one another is important to us. And just impact and evaluating the impact. All these things are what this mission is about. These you've seen before. These are our 2021 objectives, which were presented as part of the 2021 action plan. You can see it's committing funding, it's promoting opportunities, it's establishing grantees communities, and it's launching new programs, which in this case will be Rare and Bolt. We're doing a lot of things here to achieve all of these. And what we've decided to do is put together a graphic that shows you, looking at starting just late February into the end of December, what some of the activities and the milestones are that we've been able to achieve or plan to achieve in order to really address the objectives. So the next slide I'm going to show you has a lot of type on it, but the main idea that I want you to take away from this is that we have a lot of things planned. Each month there's something else going on, and each month, of course, we'll add more to this chart, but this is where we are right now. In the month of February, we were really happy. Of course, January was a lot of ramp up and work up and a lot of operational things getting off the ground. And we were finishing awarding some grants from 2020. So there was a lot of that work going on. But then in February, one of the things that we did that felt great was we shared our action plan as well as our look back to 2020 with the internet community, including the organizational members, individual members, chapters, as well as our grantees, so that they could see what we've done and where we're going. We did the same thing with the Internet Society staff. We've also released a promotional video, which I'm going to show you later in the presentation. March is a madness month. There's a phrase actually for a basketball tournament here in the United States that's called March Madness. And the madness will be that we will be busy, and busy in a great way. We are going to be launching the ER COVID-19 program, communicating about it, of course. We have IPRC meetings scheduled. We're going to be at MozFest. We've got this board meeting. March is busy. April is busy. Again, more launching. The video series called What the Internet Means to Me will be launched, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Beyond the Net, what we're doing is hosting information sessions, and these information sessions specifically for the Beyond the Net chapters are to help them get a better understanding of what the program offers, how they can be doing better programs, and learning from each other. So case studies, and we'll share some monitoring and evaluation information just to really help make those applications and those programs as robust as they can be. In May, you can see skills, busy, going to WSIS. We're really trying to increase our visibility at conferences, so we are doing more and more of that. You'll see in June an IPRC meeting, again, just for everybody to say, just in case I forgot to say, IPRC stands for Independent Program Review Committee, and that is the group that we bring in who are objective outsiders to help us make decisions on which applications should be funded by the Internet Society Foundation. So that's a very rigorous independent review process that we follow for all of the grant programs. So that's what we see when we see February through June. This is what we see when we see July through December. Obviously, November and December right now, we're just talking about creating our 2022 action plan. We will obviously be adding more to this, but that's the most important thing that you can see in there. July is quite a busy month again. We're going to be looking at, launching the resiliency program, which is one of the new programs. It's part of our RARE program, but it really focuses on building resiliency in disaster vulnerable communities. You can see also that we'll be launching BOLT, which is our innovation program. BOLT stands for building opportunities and leveraging technologies. August is 1 month where we'll be making some decisions. And as you can see, we thought we might try to take an exhale in August because these other months have a lot to go to do, but we might not. We'll have to see how it is. It's just August can normally be an exhale moment. So we'll see about that. So you can see what I'm doing here is showing you that we have things that are tied to helping us achieve those 4 objectives that you saw for 2021. That were part of our action plan, that are embedded in who we are and what we want to do this year, that are part of our mission and are part of our vision. All these things that we can do to help make the world a better place by getting the internet to everyone. So those are the timelines that we have in place right now. What I'd like to do is share with you some program highlights. Not sure why that's not staying on that slide. Okay. So program highlights I want to talk about are the alpha and beta cohorts for research, emergency response COVID-19, skills, which again, for those who can't recall, because sometimes I forget to, stands for strengthening communities, improving lives and livelihoods, updating you on that, as well as on Beyond the Net. And now we can go to that next slide. So this here is a summary of the alpha cohort of research. This is part of this list here that you see in front of you is the list of grantees that we have for the first part of our research program. For those of you who may not recall, our research is focused this first time on greening the internet and the internet economy. So each one of these organizations is doing something either on greening the internet or the internet economy. I will not go into detail about the questions they are answering, but each one of these researchers has been asked to tell us what is the question that you're answering. And we do have in the news tab on our website a drop down that will show you that there are articles that give more detail on these programs so that you're able to see what it is that they are going to be doing, much more detail than what we have here on this slide. Just to quickly take you through it, if you're interested, I hope you are, because I am. We have a good mix, actually, of internet economy and also greening the internet. The first one, environmental law, is going for greening the internet. The second one, in Center for Internet and Society, is about the economy. Data is about the economy. Our suboptic is a greening the internet program. Excuse me, our independent researcher is also about greening the internet. And then the last 2, World Wide Web and digital rights, are both doing the internet economy. So we've got a nice mix of things. Some of these are going to be as long as 2 years. And they're all promoting what it is that they're doing. I just have one example of a graphic from one of the organizations that's sharing with the world what it is that they're doing with Internet Society funding. Internet Society Foundation funding. And we're excited and they're excited. What's really fun is that we bring these grantees together and we listen to them learn from one another. And that's so rewarding, not just for them, but for us too, to see that that's working well. And we've gotten some great quotes like, wow, this is really fantastic that we're working this way, and love to hear that. So I've just finished with you research cohort alpha, and now let's talk about research cohort beta. These awards that you see listed here are not awards yet. These are applications that are being reviewed as we speak by the Independent Review Committee. They are doing this right now, Independent Program Review Committee, excuse me, as we said, to help decide what it is that should be funded. There are 4 different that are part of the beta cohort: the Green Web Foundation, the University of Oregon, Research ICT Africa, and then there's a partnership between the Internet Society Zimbabwe chapter and the Center for Advanced Research in Global Communication, which is part of the University of Pennsylvania. So you can see the various subjects that they're working on together or on their own. And at this point, we will be awarding, we believe, the funding sometime later this month. So they got all of their applications in last week or the week before. All research grantees have to submit a statement of interest first, and then that's followed by the application itself. Then they often work together to try to fine tune, or in some case partners, as we've got with the Zimbabwe chapter, and then the IPRC has a look, and then we'll go from there. So again, this continues the greening the internet and the internet economy, and that's what we'll be doing now for the research program. Later in the year, we'll be launching a different focus for research, but this is where we are right now. So that's research. And then we're going to be, as I mentioned, doing a call for COVID-19 emergency response COVID-19 grants. We'll be opening the window this coming week, March. And then again, we'll do the IPRC Independent Program Review Committee review. And then we hope that we'll be managing all of these applications. I think, as you may recall, last year we had something like 500 or 600 statements of interest and like well over 400 applications. So much is going on with COVID. There's such a need. We have no idea what kind of numbers we're going to get this year, but we anticipate it will be high. We'll decide by the 6th of April where the funding will go. This program is budgeted at $1.5 million. And we are calling specifically for connectivity projects. And that's what we're doing this time for the second call of emergency response COVID-19 program. And this, as you'll recall, is part of our RARE program, RARE, which stands for Responding to Emergencies, Resiliency and Responding to Emergencies. So later on in the year, as you saw in our timeline, we'll be launching the resiliency piece of the program called RARE. Second call for skills. We did skills grants at the end of last year. As you'll recall, we picked 3 countries in which to work for skills. We'll be relaunching in May, staying focused on the same 3 countries: Bangladesh, Colombia, and Senegal. As we did in the first call, we expect that we will award 3 grants per country, again for a total of 9 awardees, which means we'll have a total of 18 skills grantees for this program. We'll issue funds for them in the 2021 month of October. And also now our program officer is working right now on deciding, okay, so for 2022, if we want to expand, and we do, beyond these 3 countries, but stay in those same regions, what are the ways in which we should do that? What are the countries we should be looking at? Because we do want to make this program broader than it is now. So that was research cohort alpha and beta. That was skills. That was emergency response. And then we have Beyond the Net. Beyond the Net is a great program. It's open continuously. So we get grants coming in, or excuse me, applications coming in a lot. So far, we've awarded 5 just in this very short period of time in 2021. 5, in Africa, and also 1 in MENA. These projects seem to be very heavily focused on building connectivity and digital skills. There's some great stuff going on. I just was going to point out 2 really quick stories, one in Guinea and one in Colombia. The chapter in Guinea has, because of the Beyond the Net grant that they received, they've successfully organized a local workshop on community networks and the regulatory aspects of community networks. And as a result of their workshop, the Minister of ICT of Guinea has asked them to put together a memo with recommendations on the regulatory changes possible for community networks in Guinea. So that's a pretty cool outcome. In Colombia, you can see here in these words on the upper left-hand side that they've partnered with a local foundation and they are ensuring that underserved communities are being served. You can see here they had an event that helped to launch people so they were aware of the access point. And they're also going to continue in this program, again, because of a Beyond the Net grant, with offering digital literacy training to children and women heads of households. So we have some great stories for Beyond the Net from the chapters. So these are some, there are more always on our website. And as you saw back on that graphic, where we look at our milestones and we look at our activities, you can see that we'll be putting out impact stories, many of which will be Beyond the Net. And we'll also be continuing to work with the chapters, as I mentioned, to be sure that they feel that they are as educated as they need to be to do the best job they can. So those are the programs that are active. I mentioned that we have some more coming up that we will be launching, but I think you have enough information now on the programs of the Internet Society Foundation as of February and March of 2021. So the next thing I'd like to introduce you to is just our commitment to monitoring and evaluation. As I mentioned in the beginning during the agenda slide, this is something we have to have. We have got to be sure that we are measuring the impact of the work we're doing. So we see two tracks, two pillars: tracking results and impact of our grant making, and generating evidence to inform decision-making about long-term program strategies. So these are the pillars upon which we hold our monitoring and evaluation program. With this graphic, you can see there are different things that we're doing. We're testing result statements. We're digging into the reports that we're receiving. We're really getting an idea and reflections from our grantees and our program officers of what we're seeing. And remember the test, learn, adapt model. There may be some things that we see that make us realize that we need to perhaps make some changes and need to do some other things with our grantees to be sure we're getting what we need. So that is our commitment to monitoring and evaluation. And that will continue. Next slide. Excuse me. Sometimes these guys like to just keep going. Sorry about that. This is about our board designated funds. As you can see, we have paid about $700,000 just in these first few weeks. We've committed about $700,000 in these first few weeks. I just wanted to share this with you because obviously, while we are running programs and funding programs, we are also going to be launching programs. So a lot more funding will be going out the door or being committed to in the coming months. And so I just wanted to show you where we were today, and then we'll give you updates. As you know, with the increase in board designated funds, we have a lot that we want to give out, and we do have all of these other big programs still coming: skills, research, beta, research, the next focus, ER, BOLT, and resiliency. So, and then of course, Beyond the Net will continue. So a lot more to come on that news. So in addition to having talked about programs, M&E, and funding, we always like to give you an update on communications. So if you can see here, we have a newsletter that I hope you've all signed up for. If you haven't signed up for it, you can just go to our website and our homepage, and it says down at the bottom that you can subscribe. Our subscribers have gone up to 1,200 plus, which we think is pretty exciting. And you can see too that we have followers on our social media that are improving all the time. We've just got some bars here on this chart on the right-hand side about Twitter and LinkedIn. As you can see, those are all going up, but also we are seeing an increase in our YouTube subscribers as well as in our Instagram. So things are going, and we're doing this because it's so important to get the word out. And speaking of getting the word out, we have a video I'd like to share. I'm going to stop sharing the PowerPoint, and I'm going to share now instead a YouTube channel so that I can show you the video. So I'm going to come here and share and go to full screen. So I just would like to say that that video for us is something about which we are so proud and so excited. We feel it's important for us to get our brand and our positioning out. And it is something that's going to be a series of videos, as I mentioned during the slide again, that had the activities and the milestones out. We are also going to be doing this series of videos where we show our grantees who are talking, or actually those who are benefiting from our grantee programs, talking about what the internet and having access to the internet means to them. So we're going to put a lot of emphasis on video this year. So with that, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Now you've seen the video, and we'll go to the next slide. This is the training course. So in addition to all of the other things I've talked about, I think you'll recall that training is really important to the Internet Society Foundation. We have a commitment to our grantees and to our applicants to provide them with the information they need to be successful. So right here, we have two images. On the left-hand side is what is currently on the website, a very comprehensive training program about how to do KPIs, how to measure impact, key performance indicators, how to measure impact, how to do a good application, how to manage a budget, what is good financial management. All these different things we put into this training, but it was somewhat stagnant, which was how we had to start because we needed to get the content down. And that content, like I said, was somewhat stagnant in the sense that it was PDF pages and web pages. And that was good, but we wanted to make it more accessible. So we've now, as you can see on the right, this is just a screenshot because it's not actually live until later this week. But this will be a training program that has interactive people talking, things to click on. It's just a lot more fun. And what's really terrific is we have both a low bandwidth and a high bandwidth version of this. So we'll be working with the LMS that the Internet Society has, and we'll be able to get this up on our website this week. And I encourage all of you to try that at some point and just see what it looks like, or we could even talk about it a bit at our next meeting. So that's training, that's communications, that's programs, that's finances, that's M&E. Here's the team that's behind it all. So you know a lot of these people already. Of course, you know Mabel and Connie and Bea, Brittany. You know Shayna, you know Julia, you know Sue. The two new members of our team are Tasneem and Guy, and they're on the far right side. They're primarily focused on Beyond the Net. They are, however, also helping with a lot of other things. For example, skills they'll be helping with. And then we're also hiring one more person. As you'll recall, the total headcount for 2021 was going to be 10. And the last person will be our program coordinator, and he or she will be working on RARE, on BOLT, and on research. So that is the Internet Society team, Internet Society Foundation team, of whom I'm very proud. Their passion is just endless, and they're all so dedicated to doing their jobs. I'm thrilled with this team that has come together and the way in which we work together, and most importantly, the way in which they all work with the people that we work with, the grantees, our contractors, our partnerships, our world out there. It's really, really going well. So the last thing I want to share is what we call next steps, because we're not done, are we? We have a lot more to do, and this is what that's all about. So these are just the more immediate next steps. Obviously, we're going to be launching programs or awarding funding for the research beta that I referred to earlier, for emergency response, for skills. Obviously going to continue Beyond the Net application. Of course, we'll be doing those information sessions. We'll continue collaborative conversations with our grantees, excuse me, focusing more on M&E, as I mentioned, promoting training, and of course, always looking for visibility opportunities, as we know that's extremely important for the foundation. So you can see we have a lot to do. We've been doing a lot, and we want to do a lot more. There's just so much that we're proud of and that we have to accomplish, that it's just a real pleasure for all of us to say thank you. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for caring about helping us care. And with that, I'm just going to say, have a lovely day, have a lovely evening, have a lovely afternoon, wherever you are watching this. And I look forward to our discussion next week at the March 2021 Board of Trustees meeting for the Internet Society Foundation. Thank you.
So thanks, Sarah and team for putting those together. So with that, I would like to open the floor for questions, comments about the report you saw. Also the promotional video that actually thanks Sarah for sending also the link, because as I mentioned before, we didn't have the sound in the pre-recorded, so I was actually watching that directly online.
So I'm going to try next time yet another type of technology to see if I can make that work. But once after 2 tries, it wasn't working. I thought, okay, then YouTube's coming along with us.
Exactly, not worthwhile. Yeah, wasting time. That worked well enough. Walid, please.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, let me say how impressed I am, as usual, with the work of Sarah, and the development over the last few months have been remarkable, particularly given the fact that you've been working in remote locations.
Yes, we have.
You've brought up a few questions at the advisory committee's meetings, and I'd love to reflect on them with the board as well. Among them, of course, is the scope, and I think that was something that Ted and I also brought up, and also the impact aspect. I mean, how do we change lives? So we've had a very brief discussion. Perhaps Ted would help me out with this, is that we believe that, of course, the word global is well loaded, quite loaded, in the sense that, yeah, I mean, being global meaning covering the world, but of course, there is also the aspect of impacting individuals based on issues and themes. And so that's the point I wanted to raise and bring it up to the board as well. If Sarah can also add to that to give more context.
Yeah, so we're just beginning, as you know, to get focused on where this is going. We had our first operational year in 2020, setting up what programs we were going to run, determining how those programs would run, getting the systems in place, bringing the team on board. Then, as you saw in my presentation that I made on video, that we are just scoping out now all the different things that need to get done in order to get the programs out there. But one of the things you'll notice that we talked about a lot was monitoring and evaluation. And that is to sit and think to ourselves, what kind of impact are we having, but also what kind of impact do we want to have? So when I had a meeting with the Strategic Advisory Committee last week, we just started having this discussion where we're really starting to think a little bit more big picture, a little bit more about whether or not we want to be in a certain type of niche. We were talking about whether we were going to be a global funder. And in fact, we all said, well, yes, we want to work throughout the world, but we also want to work on the ground and sometimes maybe just, several villages, if that's what it is, or in one country. So for example, as our skills program does in Bangladesh, in Senegal, and Colombia. So yes, we reach globally, but we also reach down on the local level. And so we were just talking about, well, what does that mean? And where does that take the foundation going forward? So we're just really now starting these conversations. When I talked with Ted and when I talked with Walid, and I'm working with some of the other members of the advisory committee as well, we're just getting the conversation started. I can pose the 3 questions, Walid, if that's what you want to do, or did you want to go back at all, anybody, through the presentation issues first?
As you like, you can decide, yeah.
Well, I don't know if there are any specific questions first on the presentation that I made. I'd be happy to take those, but I also can share the questions.
I think we can talk about the scope questions. I think that would be a useful way to have this conversation. So, I mean, especially for those of us who are not in the committee. So we were not exposed to this discussion. So I think that's useful. Thanks, Walid, for bringing this up.
Okay, so I had not anticipated this. I had anticipated talking about the presentation. So if you'll just give me a second, I'm going to go ahead and find those questions and I can share them with everyone. I'm happy to be very flexible, as I think everybody here knows.
Or maybe Ted, do you want to summarize them?
There's a great deal more than this, but I think that during the discussion, Sarah asked us whether we were looking for impact in this next year that was on a particular country level, at multiple country level, or at the global level. And I think the response we gave was really that we weren't trying to focus on regions or specific countries, but trying to look for the underserved, the people who are not yet connected to the network or whose access to the network is inadequate, and that wherever those people might be, and they've obviously had one that they've focused on inside New York City, that was appropriate, and that trying to regionalize it or to try and focus on specific areas was probably not as important as to try and look at to see where the need was greatest. And the downside of that obviously is you then need competence in working in a very large number of places, because the needs can arise in a very large number of places. My hope personally is that by working with chapters and the other parts of the ISOC community, we can give them the facilities they need to work wherever they find grant applications that would serve the underserved. The other problem, of course, is the one that we've had kind of historically, is that identifying people to whom we can provide funds as parallel to 501c3 is difficult enough in a small number of jurisdictions. And if you raise it to the number we would hope to serve, it gets a little bit more difficult. But I believe from what Sarah has told us, the addition of a new contractor there has markedly improved the situation there, and therefore hopefully the speed with which we can disperse money.
Yeah, we definitely have got every system in place now. And as you all know, we increased the number or the amount of board designated funds. So we feel like this year in particular, we're really going to start to see what the foundation can do. You know, we had a very successful year, no doubt about it, in 2020, but there's still so much more that we want to do. And we see this year as being really quite accelerated in terms of making a statement about who we are. We're very actively, as I mentioned in the presentation, seeking out opportunities to share who we are, what we want to do. We're joining organizations who are starting to really reach out to other foundations in the space and get more ideas from them and ways that we can be working together. So this really is the year, to Ted's point, where we're going to start doing more of that type of thinking and that type of activity, and then to talking again about having a monitoring and evaluation manager who can help us to really look at this stuff. And in fact, it's she who's posed these questions. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see them. I think it might be easier. Okay, can anybody see those?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so considering where we are now, at what level does the advisory committee, this is again for our last meeting, I think we should be aiming to generate impact in the next 2 to 3 years. And Ted, I think, has addressed that question. I don't know, Walid, if you want to add anything, or I'd love just right now, if we want to focus on this, to just hear what others have to say as well.
I mean, I just adding to what Ted has mentioned is that it's extremely, let's say, broad to say global. I mean, we should always aim at something that's global, but of course we don't have the expectations that to have branches and cover all and every country around the world like the UN does. So yeah, that's only say challenge is that, because I can imagine people asking, okay, how do we get coverage? How do we get? I mean, so that's only a matter of scalability and how far and how fast can you get to that point. But of course, the other aspects of touching lives and impacting people and how you measure that, that's also important. I reflected on the difference in the developing countries, where that's where we have a bit of a bias. And I think Ted agreed with me on that we need to push forth more a narrative that says there is going to be more emphasis on developing countries, even though I can imagine there are many parts of the US that also require attention in terms of broadband access. And so these are the overall aspects that I raised. But yeah, the floor is open, I would guess.
Yes, and I do want to mention the piece about vulnerable populations. That is really important to us. In fact, with the launching of the second call for our emergency response COVID-19, we are asking a question in flux about the type of population that this will serve. So again, it's focused on COVID-related projects on connectivity, but we're also asking questions in this particular case about populations served. Now, does that mean we limit the work that we do to only vulnerable populations? That's a question that we asked ourselves, and we're thinking about it. I think it's important, but it could also be looked at as a certain percentage of the work targets that type of audience, others maybe in the global north. So these are the types of things that we're really starting to consider. And my team, as you know, is full of incredibly bright people who have really good ideas on this. And we're assembling thoughts so that we can really nail this strategy down. But yes, now I'd like to open the floor and hear from others. Please, it'd be great.
So when I hear global, I don't think it limits us to things that have global reach and scope, but rather we are open to projects from anywhere in the world. And so it's a slightly different interpretation of global. So we don't have projects specifically just for a particular region, but we're open to projects from anywhere. I think that's important to state. And I do think the focus on whether it's vulnerable populations or underserved populations anywhere in the world, I think is the right focus for these types of projects. We have, of course, have separate projects that are not that are addressing different types of questions and issues, such as our research agenda, and that's a different class. So, you know, we do have a portfolio of the projects, the initiatives. I mean, I thought you did a really nice job in the video, reporting on all of that. So if we think about it broadly that way, you know, I don't see these things at all as being in conflict or inconsistent. I see these mutually reinforcing.
Yeah, and Two Pepper, as you know, as everybody here knows, we have chapters who are eligible for funding in over 100 countries. So, I mean, that's a lot right there. And that network started the day that I started. So that's just something to think about too. But yes, I hear what you're saying. And the population and the target audience pieces is important. So
Andrew has a question in chat, you know, so vulnerable versus developing countries. You know, it's you know, about the impact. You can have you know, developing countries that have a high level of penetration and adoption. You have other developing countries that don't.
Right.
And so I think Andrew wants to speak. He's raised his hand.
Okay. Andrew, your turn.
Well, the question, I was a little mystified by this conversation because I was not involved in it, and so I you know, watched the stuff from the agenda, and this didn't seem to be in it. So I'm having a tough time understanding precisely what the concern is here. But if I understood what the exchange just happened, the issue here is that some of the way that some of these things are being presented is too much focused on geography, or it's not focused enough on geography, or, I mean, this seems to be, we seem to be getting into the issue that sometimes we run into in on the ISOC side of the house as well, where the concern is, you know, what's the region? And the problem is, or maybe I could put this another way, there's more in common between or among the networks in First Nations parts of North America and parts of Africa that are rural and remote, and parts of South and Central America that are rural and remote, and parts of Asia that are rural and remote. And there's more in common among Toronto, network-wise, among Toronto, Cape Town, and Tokyo. And you know, those are all places that are in different economies, but there's what we're focused here on is the sort of network level and socioeconomic level development rather than the country. Is that what this discussion is about?
It was intended to just start people thinking about the types of things that we want to do and what we want to stand for. But the point that you just made, that there are commonalities in rural areas, regardless of the country, or even in urban areas in the United States, have things in common with rural areas, maybe in Africa, in terms of penetration or lack thereof. So that if you look at the populations like that, then you're not looking at geography, you're looking at the people. That's how I see it. And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to figure out, because I have always thought this foundation, well, it is. Our vision is the internet is for everyone, regardless of where you live. But we want to make sure that we are really working hard to connect the unconnected, or to improve the lives of those who are connected but don't understand the benefits. And that they can be anywhere. So,
Mike is in the queue. Maybe Mike wants to talk about that.
Yeah, sure, I do. That was I'm glad that Andrew brought up, the question of First Nations, because that's exactly where my mind went immediately, about populations in developed countries that are nonetheless underserved, and by the way, not likely to be served, imminently, for various reasons. So I think I was thinking a lot about that, and also about the fact that, and my next thought was, there are even populations in some, highly dense urban areas where there might be projects that I could conceive of to meet the needs of underserved populations. I've traveled in India. There's some parts of Delhi which are very highly developed, and other parts that are very, that have very little access of the sort that we might think was necessary. So to me, the criterion ought to be the populations criterion, or the underserved people's criterion. I don't have a strong preference about global South or global North. I think there's a rough correlation, as I'm sure many of us agree, that, about where you find more underserved populations. But the fact is, we might find an opportunity to cooperate or support on a test bed project, in a different latitude. And maybe that's what we ought to, and we ought not to close the door to that opportunity, because we've constrained ourselves artificially through some geographic notion of what our scope is.
oh, yes, I agree with you, Mike. Yeah.
Maybe if you stop sharing, Kevin, so we can go into the video, so I can see everyone. Yes.
Yeah, I know it's hard when you're just seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So this, as I said, is just, I put in the video the things that we have done since we last met, which I think everyone has to agree is a lot. But what was really important is where we're going, and what are the other programs we're launching? What are the types of things that we're funding? To Pepper's point, the research cohorts, as we call them, A and B, and B's been approved by the IPRC, the Independent Program Review Committee. All of these things together work to shape who we are and what we stand for. And the idea is just to get that conversation started. But I do want to be sure that everyone is comfortable with the information that I shared regarding the activities that are coming, the timeline, the milestones, the types of things that we have planned, the types of stories that we're starting to convey in terms of impact, the way in which we plan to conduct monitoring evaluations, so that we are digging into reports and seeing what people are really doing with the money that we're providing, all of that sort of thing. I think I really want to be sure that this entire board is comfortable with, feels good about the direction, feels like it's the next right step, and that we're thinking about all of the right things. And then this other conversation that we're having about whether we're global or what, or whether, how we know we're impacting lives. that we're getting there. That's where we ultimately want to go. But in this particular meeting, I had anticipated having a discussion just to get feedback from you all on that. But again, let's open up the floor. We can talk about all of the above.
Yes. Thank you, Sarah. Any comments on that? I watched the presentation. I thought it was the right direction, as I mentioned in our regular call, Sarah. So you already know that I'm on the same page. But yeah, I would like to open the floor if someone has more comments, either agreeing on the direction or commenting in any way. Okay, good. So I don't see any more comments, but again, thanks, Sarah. I think, as you said, I mean, we are doing, great stuff there. Well, you guys in the team are achieving a lot of things, and again, maximizing impact. So I myself, I'm very happy with that, and thanks for putting together the presentation. I think that was very useful. Okay, so, and I see Walid is saying that he thinks also that the direction is excellent and the progress is obvious. So yeah, thanks. Okay, good. So now we're gonna be moving into the executive session to discuss the financials. So Kevin.
So yes, I'm gonna lock the room. The only guests we have are foundation staff, and Sandy said she is okay if they stay.
Okay, good.
We're locked now. Okay, we're unlocked and the recording is restarted.
Okay, thank you. So we just came back from the executive session. We are again in open to observer session. And now we have a resolution in front of us, which is going to be used to ratify all the e-votes. We have just changed in both ISOC and the foundation the way we pass e-votes. And we would like to just ratify, especially e-votes that they were passed non-unanimously in the past, to just ratify all the decisions we made. So any questions about that? Okay, seeing no questions, I need someone to move. Ted moves, George seconds, and then we're gonna pass this by roll call. So I will start with Ted and I move upwards in my screen. So Ted, please, yes, no, or abstain?
Yes.
Thank you, Ted. Mike?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Walid?
Yes.
Pepper?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
And Gonzalo, I vote yes. The resolution passes unanimously. Okay, excellent. Thank you. This was good. So the only remaining point in the agenda is any other business. Any other business from anyone? Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, so if there's no any other business, I thank again Sarah and the team, and I was excited to see that the team has been growing and you have new recruits, so that's always good. I hope that the fact that you guys cannot meet face to face is not a challenge for onboarding people and integrating them in the team, but I'm sure that you are doing a great job even if everybody is distributed.
So I will say to you that we do what we have to do, and this is what we have to do right now. But I will also say, as I think everyone on this team knows, that I am an extremely positive and hopeful person, and I intend to be with them in person someday.
Yeah.
Someday. Okay.
So if you were, I don't know if you were following the previous session we had, but apparently, well, we were meeting with Lars, the ITF chair, and he said that maybe meeting in Madrid. I mean, the ITF meeting in Madrid is not out of the question. We'll see. But anyway, if that happens, the board meeting is scheduled to happen there. So that will be good. And even though I will be off the board by then, but Ericsson is sponsoring that ITF, hosting it. So I may be able to catch up with you guys, for a dinner or something. That would be fun. Okay, having said that, then I move to adjourn. Okay, George seconds, so the meeting is closed. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good day,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.